Before the millionaire chose to claim his wife after 3 years of marriage without ever touching her, he fell profoundly in love. Tell us where you're watching from in the comments section before we begin the story. Lastly, remember to provide the narrative a score between 0 and 10. Savor the narrative. Emily had been, for 3 years, she was married to William Anderson, the city's most sought-after, rich CEO, and he treated her as if she didn't exist. They have hardly spoken to one another throughout their 3 years of marriage. She was only a component of an arrangement that was unclear to her. The Anderson family needed William to get married, and her modest family needed money. That was all. At 6 o'clock, Emily went downstairs to the kitchen. William had always. She had 15 minutes to have breakfast at 6:15 and then vanish. That was the calm, agonizing daily routine. However, something was different that morning. William had already started to descend the steps. Emily got up hurriedly to go, but something strange happened this time. Occurred. Emily froze in the threshold at the icy voice. Slowly, she turned around. There stood William. His piercing blue eyes were fixed on her, and he looked smart in his flawless suit. It was he had called her name for the first time in months. "Yes," Emily said, attempting to conceal the astonishment in her tone. "Is there anything you could wear to a business function?" Emily stared in confusion as he asked in a direct manner, as if speaking to a staff member. "I don't understand. This is a straightforward inquiry. Do you have a clothing that's suitable for go to a gala dinner with the CEO of Anderson Enterprises?" Emily's heart began to accelerate. 3 years later, she had never once been in public with him. "Why are you asking me that?" she inquired. Feeling a little, William looked at her for a second, as if he was seeing her for the first time, since she possessed courage that she was unaware of. "You never do business, so why are you coming with me tomorrow night at 7 o'clock? "Reasons. I have to project an image of a steady family man." He abruptly cut her off. "My wife, at least on paper." Emily's face flushed with shame as the words struck like knives, yet she held her head high. William, who was obviously taken aback by her refusal, cocked an eyebrow if I didn't want to go. "Emily, that's not an option. It's a duty." "Duty?" she said again. William's expression briefly changed to one of bitterness, like everything else in my life. This experience is significant. It almost seemed like regret. But it vanished so quickly that Emily believed she had dreamed it. "You have to look decent for foreign investors and million-dollar contracts." Emily raised her chin with pride. "Presentable? William, you have no idea who I am. I know plenty, and you haven't bothered to ask in 3 years. Do? Then tell me." Emily moved closer, her eyes gleaming with defiance. "What color is my favorite? What did I study? What do I do in this house when you neglect me for long hours?" I assumed that William was uneasy since he remained mute. Emily groaned. "I'll attend your event, Mr. Anderson, but not because it's required of me. I'll go because I'm interested in seeing this world after 3 years of being invisible." With her head held high, she marched past him and out of the kitchen saying, "You chose over me." William observed her as he stood there. Ascend the stairs, he finally saw the woman he had married for the first time in 3 years. Emily was elegant, presence, even when dressed simply. She moved with dignity and strength in her demeanor. How could he have missed that earlier? Upstairs, with her heart pounding, Emily sat on the bed. For the first time in 3 years, she would be seen in public tomorrow night as Anderson, Emily. Was she prepared for the potential consequences of that? William stayed in the kitchen downstairs, experiencing an odd sensation in his chest. Why did her response impact so suddenly, so profoundly? It was Emily's 10th time looking in the mirror. The outfit she wore was navy blue. The selection was sleek, yet straightforward. The only one she had that was suitable for a formal occasion. Years have passed since she purchased it. She still hoped for a typical social life prior to the marriage. She descended the stairs at precisely 7 o'clock, perfect in his black tuxedo. William was waiting in the living room. He hesitated for a second upon seeing her, as though he had been taken aback by something about her. "You look appropriate." He only said that, but Emily saw his gaze hover over her for a little longer than necessary. The vehicle transported them to the Grand Beverly Hotel. They did not speak for the entire ride. Emily, who had been concealed for 3 years, peeked out the window anxiously, and she would suddenly be presented as the spouse of Los Angeles' most influential CEO. William recalled as "You are Emily Anderson, and you have arrived. Be courteous, smile, and refrain from discussing company. I understand." William gave Emily a sardonic look and said, "Be a pretty decoration and stay quiet." Swiftly, with a brief spark of amusement in his eyes. The room was filled with significant individuals, entrepreneurs, financiers, and socialites. Emily felt like a walking scam, but she maintained the graceful stance she had picked up from observing her mother-in-law on rare events. William, a tall, affable man, came over and said, "I finally get to meet the mysterious wife, Richard Thompson." "My wife, Emily," William said properly. Richard took Emily's hand and planted a kiss on it. Courteously. "I work with European markets as an international investor, and it's a true pleasure, Emily." Naturally, Emily smiled and said, "Your wife is delightful, William, and she's considerably more gorgeous than the pictures capture." Emily couldn't figure out which pictures she had never posed for. Images as William's wife. "Do you speak any other languages, Emily?" Richard inquired, obviously curious. "Yes, I speak." Richard's eyes brightened. "Magnafi. I've been looking Fluent in Spanish and French, William interrupted quickly. Would you be interested in helping with a few contracts in South America? Richard continued to stare at Emily and remarked, What a waste. Emily doesn't work. Emily felt a thrill of thankfulness when someone finally realized she had more to offer. A smart and beautiful lady should use her gifts, offer rather than just being ornamental. Emily said, disregarding William's admonishing glance. I'd love to help. Perfect. Richard proposed that they discuss the specifics over dinner tomorrow, but she's busy. Actually, I'm not, Emily responded, glancing directly at William, but I'd be happy to have dinner, he remarked icily. Along with you, Mr. Thompson? Richard grinned widely. Great. I'll come get you at 8. William took Emily's arm more firmly than was required as Richard left. What do you believe? You're not having dinner with him? He snarled. You might want to try having a civilized conversation. Emily quickly withdrew from him. Why not? You said it yourself. I'm just your wife on paper, and I can do whatever I want on paper. William gazed at her with a menacing expression. You're, for the remainder of the evening, Emily, my wife. Since when has that mattered to you? Saw that William never left her side, not even for a second. William appeared whenever Richard approached. The atmosphere in the car on the drive home was high, like a possessive bodyguard. It was weird and perplexing. William said, I'm not having dinner with him. Emily calmly answered, Yes, I am. Why? Just to get beneath to remind myself that I'm a real person, William, Emily said, turning to face him. Someone with intelligence, abilities, worth. Something you've forgotten entirely. Nothing has slipped my mind. No, tell me then, when did you last see me in person? Not as a thing or a duty, but rather as an individual. Emily could see the stiffness in William's jaw, but he remained mute. That's, she whispered, what I had thought. Emily immediately went to the bedroom when they arrived home. However, she turned before entering, to William, who remained in the corridor. I'm grateful for tonight. Emily, that was enlightening. His voice caused her to take a moment. Indeed. William paused, as if he had something significant to say, but then gave a headshake. Nothing. Good night. Emily came in, but was unable to fall asleep. She had noticed a change in William for the first time in 3 years. Possessiveness, jealousy. Whatever it was, it had obviously affected him in a manner that no other item ever had. William was still across the hall, waking and pacing. His mind was etched with the picture of Richard observing Emily, stroking her hand and causing her to smile. Mentality. Worst of all, he had experienced an unreasonable rage and a primal need to drive any male away from his spouse. His spouse? When did he start thinking of Emily as his wife instead of just a family member? Duty. William, bewildered by his own feelings, paused at the window. Within 3 years of carefully cultivated indifference were upended by Emily one night. William awakened at 5 a.m. like usual, but he was unable to fall back asleep this time. Richard Thompson's picture, staring at Emily, smiled as she touched her hand. Like a flaming brand, it was ingrained in his head. He rose and made his way to the window. 3 years. Emily and I shared a home for 3 years. Additionally, he had never experienced this peculiar, unnerving sensation in his chest. Something primordial seems to have reawakened within. Something he was unable to comprehend or control. How could he have cared if Emily attracted interest from another man? Unusually early, he went down to the kitchen. 6 o'clock. He was shocked to learn that Emily was already there, enjoying a cup of coffee while gazing out the window from the counter. She was dressed simply in a robe. Over her shoulders, her hair fell carelessly. William paused in the doorway, observing her closely for the first time. Initially, how could he have missed her beauty? Not merely attractive like he had stated yesterday, but genuinely lovely. Something about the soft curve of her neck, her profile, the way her face was illuminated by the dawn light. "You're staring at me," Emily remarked, shocking him by not looking back. Embarrassed at being discovered, William cleared his throat. "Just making sure that you're ready to call off dinner this evening." William experienced an odd knot in his stomach as Emily turned to face him. Eyes locked. "I'm not going to cancel." "Why not?" "What is it about this dude that's so crucial?" Curious, Emily cocked her head to examine him. Respect, attention, and the sense that I am important. Her William was surprised by how deeply the remarks wounded. He moved toward the counter and stood closer to her than he had in years. "Do you care about you?" With a challenge in her eyes, Emily asked. "Really? Because I could as well have been a ghost until last night." William was unable to respond, since she was correct. He had totally disregarded her, treating her as if she were a piece of furniture. But now that he was staring at her, he couldn't comprehend how he had been so oblivious. "Why are you staring at me that way?" Emily inquired, her voice now barely audible. "Such as if you've never seen me before." William took a deep breath. "Perhaps I am?" There was a heavy stillness between them, one that neither of them could identify. Emily could feel her heart pounding. Quicker. William had an intensity in his eyes that she had never seen before. She started, "William," but he interrupted her. "Don't have dinner." "Why?" Emily got to her feet and faced him. "Give me a legitimate explanation." William had trouble pronouncing the words. How was he going to explain that? The notion of another man. It was making him crazy to touch her, smile at her, and make her giggle. How could... Does he acknowledge that? After 3 years of acting as though she didn't exist, he suddenly showed concern. All he could say was, "Because you're my wife," Emily said, on paper. But something had altered in her voice as well. On paper, William responded again, but something was visible in his eyes. Very different. For a few period, they stood there and gazed at one another, the tension between them like static in the air. Emily could smell his pricey cologne blended with something distinctly masculine, and she could feel the warmth of his body. The words, "You've changed," she whispered. "What do you mean? You hardly knew my name yesterday, but now you're different." William, obviously irritated, combed his hair. "I don't know what's happening to me." The unfiltered Emily was taken aback by the candor in his voice. She had never seen him before. Human, perplexed, and vulnerable. "When Richard was speaking to me last night, how did you feel?" William gave her a prolonged glance. Anger? An unreasonable rage at the way he was staring at you. Feeling jealous? The term hung in the space between them. William didn't respond, but it was clear from the expression in his eyes. "Why?" Emily pushed. "Why do you suddenly care?" "I'm not sure," William yelled and moved away from her. "Not sure why, but I can't stop thinking about you. I'm not sure why, but the idea of you dining with another man is making me go crazy." Emily was taken aback by the intensity of his voice. "This comes after 3 years of coldness. You want the truth, William?" His eyes gleamed with passion as he turned back to face her. "I stayed up all night. I've never truly looked at you, I'm thinking. About how I've been a fool for 3 years, regarding how another man witnessed what I had been blind to for 3 years in a single night." Emily's heart was racing. And what did he observe? William took another step toward her, his gaze scanning her face as if he were attempting to commit every specifics. A powerful, intelligent, and attractive lady who deserves to be valued rather than disregarded. Emily's eyes stung with tears. "William, 3 years. I waited 3 years for any indication that I wasn't just a burden to you. I'm aware, and I'm ashamed of it. Why now then? Why only right now?" After hesitating, William revealed his most difficult truth. "When I realize that another man wants you, that I'm afraid because I want you too." Everything changed as the words lingered between them. Emily sensed as if the earth had moved under her feet. She stated, "I'm still having dinner with Richard tonight." But the voice faltered. Emily raised her chin determinedly and asked, "Why?" "You had 3, William. It took you 3 years to treat me like your real wife. You can't count on me to simply drop everything. Because you ultimately came to the conclusion that I exist." She then moved past him and left. William was left alone in the kitchen, more bewildered and uneasy than he had ever been in his life after they went upstairs. Emily's heart was racing as she leaned against the bedroom door upstairs. In just one, everything had changed. In the morning, what would she do with this change, she wondered. Emily took one final look at herself in the mirror. She had selected an emerald green dress that accentuated her eyes, stored for years, awaiting a momentous occasion. She believed that she deserved to feel beautiful today, to feel observed. At 8 o'clock at night, the doorbell rang. Richard was spot on. Time, as he had said. Carrying a tiny black purse, Emily and Grace descended the stairs. William can be seen everywhere. As usual, he was most likely locked in his office. Emily. When Richard saw her, he offered his arm in a gentlemanly manner and remarked, "You look stunning." "I'm grateful, Richard, anticipating our talk." Emily was unaware that William was observing from the window of his office. He watched another man take his wife out, his hands balled into fists. His rage was illogical, instinctive, and totally unknown to him. Richard took her to one of Beverly Hills' most upscale dining establishments. The setting was tasteful, with classical music playing in the background and soft lighting. Emily thought she had been taken to a world she had nearly forgotten, where she was treated more like a lady than an unseen. So after they ordered dinner, Richard started. "Emily, tell me about you." William rarely discusses his private life. Emily offered a tiny, dejected smile. "Not much is discernible. William wouldn't know anything, at least." "By what do you mean?" "Okay, Emily." After pausing, I chose to be truthful. "I'm not really close to my husband. Most likely, this is the first social dinner. It's been 3 years." Startled, Richard arched his eyebrows. "It's difficult to accept that. A lady such as yourself ought to be at all of the town's events." Emily chuckled softly. "Although you're really nice, William actually wants to keep us alive. Keep apart." "Shameful," Richard muttered. "Describe your background to me. You said yesterday that you are multilingual." Emily's gaze brightened. At last, someone who is curious about her true identity was. "I graduated from UCLA with a degree in business administration. I am fluent in Italian, Spanish, and French. I worked for a global consulting firm prior to getting married." Richard, obviously impressed, leaned in. "That's fantastic. Which field did you specialize in?" "International negotiations and emerging markets. I assisted American businesses start operating in Latin America." "Emily, you're just the kind of person I need for my initiatives in Chile and Argentina. Someone with your level of expertise is needed for mining contracts I have." Emily sensed a surge of contentment. How long had it been since she felt appreciated for her abilities and useful? "It would be fantastic to," she acknowledged, going back to work. "I miss using my intellect to something worthwhile." Emily saw a familiar face walk into the restaurant at that very time. Her blood was icy. William was the one. He appeared flawless in a dark suit, yet he had a stormy face. His azure gaze searched the space before settling on her, and the intensity in his gaze sent shivers down Emily's spine. Emily. As he walked over to their table, William's strong voice interrupted the talk. Richard stood courteously. William, how unexpected it is to see you here. I'm positive it is, William said guiltily, staring at Emily. Could I talk to, for a minute, my wife? Naturally, Richard remarked, perplexed by the tension in the air. I'll go outside for a little. William sat in the vacant chair after Richard left, never taking his eyes off of it. Away from Emily. Why are you here? Emily asked, attempting to maintain a calm tone. What are you, I wonder? What are you doing here? As promised, I'm having dinner. William surveyed the lovely scene, the soft candles, music, and the cozy setting. This supper doesn't appear to be about business. Defiantly, Emily raised her chin. Additionally, how do you know? I've never gone out to dinner with you. William was struck hard by the remarks. It was accurate. After 3 years of marriage, he hadn't even dated her. Never ate dinner with her in a romantic manner. William started. Emily, his voice now lower. I was unaware that you have a business degree. Astonished, Emily blinked. How are you aware of that? I've heard you two are conversing. Were you spying on us? William was kind enough to display embarrassment. Yes, I do. And I didn't know a lot of things about you. Emily responded. 3 years, William, in a wounded tone. You had 3 years to care and to ask. William went on. You speak 3 languages, as though enumerating discoveries. You were employed at Global Consulting. You know a lot about emerging markets, and you're totally surprised by it, William admitted. I believed you to be exactly what? A straightforward girl chosen for you by your family? A burden you had to carry? That's exactly what William had thought, so he said nothing. You, Emily said, her voice rising, never took the time to find out who I really am. You never inquired about my dreams, my goals, my anxieties. I was merely an inconvenient duty to you. No, Emily, she interrupted him. After neglecting me for 3 years, you don't get to walk up now and pretend that you suddenly care. William bent over. Something Emily couldn't quite place was gleaming in his eyes. However, I care more than I ought to and more than I comprehend. Why? Since a different man expressed interest. Because it dawned on you that you might be losing something. Worthwhile. Yes, William said sternly. That's exactly right. The ruthless candor of his Emily was momentarily stunned by the response. She whispered, At least you're honest. Richard returned to the table, sensing the strain. Is everything in order here? William got to his feet, but his gaze remained fixed on Emily, simply bidding farewell. I'll see you at home later, Emily. There was no request. It sounded almost like an order from a man accustomed to being obeyed. Emily had a mixture of annoyance and something different, something that accelerated her heartbeat. Perhaps, she said, maintaining her composure. William hesitated, for Emily trembled a little as he turned and left the restaurant. After a little while, as though he wanted to say more. "All right," Richard remarked as he took a seat once more. "That was really intense. Your husband gave off the impression of being possessive." Emily gave a sardonic laugh. After 3 years of apathy, possessiveness has suddenly emerged. Men are peculiar beings. Richard murmured softly, "Emily, could I say something?" Naturally, I observed his gaze on you. It went beyond simple possessiveness. It was a wish. Simple and easy. Emily's face flushed. "You're dreaming." "No, I'm not. I also noticed how you gazed at him. You two had a past together. Complex and unsolved." Emily sighed. "The story is lengthy. They are always the greatest." With a knowing tone, Richard said, "Grin. Could I add something else, though? A guy who disregards a woman like you for 3 years is a fool. However, a man who at last recognizes what he has could be dangerously committed to keeping it." The remainder of the meal was spent having a nice talk about business and prospects. But Emily's thoughts kept returning to William. The manner in which he had observed her, the frank admission that he cared, the intensity in his voice. It was after 11 when Richard brought her home. At night. "Thank you for a wonderful evening," Emily remarked with genuine gratitude. I haven't felt this good in a long time. I had a great time, and I hope you would give the job offer careful thought." As Richard drove off, Emily nodded and turned to look at the home. "You'd be a perfect fit for my team." Every one of the Williams' office was the only one without lighting. He was anticipating her arrival. Emily came in stealthily, although she was aware that would have no choice but to engage in the debate that awaited them. Silence has been broken for 3 years, and there was no turning back. Slowly, her footsteps reverberated throughout the still house as she ascended the stairs. As she went by, the door to the office opened. "Emily?" she asked, pausing without looking back. "We must to speak," William said. At last, Emily looked up at him. "Now you want to talk after 3 years?" "Yes, now." "Yes." Emily paused as she heard a vulnerability in his voice that she had never heard before. "All right," she replied at last. Nervous, Emily entered William's office and said, "Let's talk." William spent much of his time in this traditionally male space, which had dark wood shelving, leather chairs, and a sizable desk. His evenings. His hands were in his pockets as he stood by the window, gazing out over the city lights. "So," Emily said, crossing her arms, she said. William gently turned to face her and said, You wanted to talk. I'd like to comprehend, recognize. What? Are you us? How did we get here? Emily gave a sour laugh. After 3 years, William. You had 3 years to learn anything you could about me. I acknowledge that I have been careless. Careless? Emily reiterated in shock. I was treated as though I didn't exist. Clearly agitated, William ran a hand over his hair. I was unsure about how to behave. I didn't choose this marriage, nor was it mine. Emily swiftly retaliated. They glanced at one another for a moment, bearing the burden of their 3-year quiet. What made you accept it? William at last inquired. A piercing pang shot through Emily's chest. You're not really sure. I was aware that the families had some sort of agreement, but I never inquired about specifics. Naturally, you didn't inquire, Emily whispered. Why would you? You were going to have a convenient, peaceful wife, Emily. Please clarify for me. After giving him a long look, Emily took a seat on one of the armchairs. They were finally going to have the chat they had been avoiding for 3 years. You want the truth? She asked. Softer. The truth about why a girl from a humble background married the almighty CEO William Anderson. William was seated, the chair across from her, staring into her eyes. Emily closed her eyes for a moment and said, Yes, I want to know everything. Allowing the memories to return for a moment. Emily was seated 3 years ago at the kitchen table at the humble home in a tiny hamlet 2 hours away from Los Angeles, where she had grown up. Her mom, Sarah, scanned through several documents with an anxious expression on her face and trembling palms. David, her father, was pacing away and forth, his worried face tense. Emily saw and said, Mom, what's going on? Then with increasing nervousness. After giving David a thoughtful look, Sarah sighed deeply. Emily, we need to discuss something really serious with you, sweetie. I'm afraid of you. David sat down firmly and stopped pacing beside his daughter in the chair. Our company is having severe financial difficulties, Emily. Emily blinked, perplexed. Her parents' modest but steady accounting business had always been sufficient to sustain them. What sort of problem? Sarah spoke the word debt in a scarcely audible whisper. Much of it. We're devoted all of their resources to growth. That didn't go as planned. How much? David swallowed forcefully. $2 million? Emily's blood turned chilly. 2 million? How are things? Is that even feasible? We invested recklessly and formed poor alliances. David, we put our trust in the wrong people. Stated, his voice laden with shame. Now what? Sarah went on. Now we'll lose everything, including our savings, the property, and the business. Your father might even be charged with a crime, Emily said, felt as though everything around her was crumbling. We must be able to do something. An investor and a bank. That is, David spoke slowly. One possibility exists. What is it? Sarah picked her up. Daughter's hand. The Andersons. For years they have been our clients. Robert Anderson, our grandpa, created an offer. What sort of offer? David paused. They'll offer us a new beginning and settle all of our bills. In return? For what? In return for you getting married to William, their son. Emily remained quiet for a while as he tried to comprehend what had been spoken. Emily, are you serious? With tears in her eyes, Sarah spoke. I understand how this sounds, but it's our only choice. I'm supposed to sell myself? David, it's not really like that. Objected. The Andersons are an affluent and well-respected family. William is a young, accomplished man. You do well? Life? I didn't choose that life. Sarah begged Emily, please, if we don't, we lose everything if we accept. Your dad might end up behind bars. Emily got up quickly and went to the window. Her debts and business dealings were determining the future. The ensuing stillness was her response to the question, what if I say no? Turning to her parents, Emily asked, you already said yes, didn't you? You've already consented. We required, I made a snap decision, David acknowledged. The creditors were getting closer. Emily experienced a mixture of desperation and rage. How about what I want, my aspirations, my plans? You can continue to work and study. It's just an arrangement. An arrangement? You sold your daughter for $2 million, Emily repeated bitterly. It's not precisely like that, Emily. Emily blew out. You made me into a transaction. She rushed to her room and slammed the door. She sobbed for hours, torn between despair and rage. How had her life ended up this way? A few days later, Emily had her first encounter with William, which was formal, chilly, and more. He was polished, attractive, and aloof. He treated her with the deference of a businessman. In that initial meeting, William said, I hope you understand. This is a mutually beneficial agreement. Advantageous agreement between our families. I only ask for discretion and the occasional public appearance. Appearance? After putting aside her pride, Emily consented. What was her option? Let's get back to the present. Emily opened. William was observing her intently when she opened her eyes. So now you know, she said, her voice rough with emotion. My parents kept my family afloat. But I paid the price. William remained silent for a while. I didn't know the details, he finally said, absorbing the story for a moment. Of course not. Why would you give a damn? You have a practical wife who wouldn't meddle in your affairs. I kept my family out of jail and out of poverty. Everyone but Emily affirmed, except you, except me. I lost my freedom, my dreams, my dignity, all for $2 million. William got up and approached her, pausing a few paces away. Emily, I didn't discover how much it cost you. How could you have known? You didn't ask. After 3 years, you never once expressed concern for my feelings or desires. And what did you want? Emily gave him a startled glance. The query? I desired a genuine marriage and to be adored for who I was, not for my money worth, not a commercial transaction. I wanted to feel appreciated rather than burdened. William bent down in front of Emily, felt his piercing blue eyes as he sat in her chair. And now, what do you want now? Her eyes hurt from tears. After 3 years of being ignored, I'm not sure anymore. Transformed me. I grew accustomed to being invisible and having no expectations. Yet last night with Richard, last night William reached out, reminding me of what it's like to be noticed and valued. It was both terrifying and amazing. Emily, I know I don't have the right to ask this, but give me a chance, she said, pausing before caressing her face. For what? To start over, to try to have a genuine relationship with the lady I married. Emily looked steady at him and noticed vulnerability in his eyes for the first time. Why try now, William? Why wait 3 years? Because I've finally recognized what I've lost. Because I was blind to the fact that I have an amazing wife. Emily's heart raced at the prospect of you with another man. But the anguish of those 3 years still weighed heavy on her. After 3 years of pain, she finally declared, I need time. William nodded and lowered his hand, saying, I understand, but don't heal overnight. Yes, Emily, I will fight for you and us, even if it takes some time. Good night, Emily said, standing there feeling emotionally spent. It's difficult, but I won't give up. William. Good night, Emily. She left the study, leaving William by himself, the weight of what he had just discovered. 3 years squandered, a remarkable woman disregarded, a marriage that could have been genuine if he hadn't been so conceited and foolish. But now that he was aware of the reality, he was resolved to win the heart of the woman who, although legally his wife, needed to be genuinely his. The following morning, Emily William always departed before she woke up, so it was strange to wake up to the smell of freshly brewed coffee emanating from the kitchen. Curious, she went downstairs and was astounded by what she saw. William was in the kitchen. Not only, while drinking coffee, they were preparing breakfast, which included 2 steaming mugs, fresh fruit on a platter, and pancakes on the stove. Of coffee on the counter. Good morning, he greeted, turning upon hearing her enter. He was wearing casual clothing. Good morning, Emily answered. He was wearing jeans and a button-down shirt without a tie, something she had never seen him wear. Warily, what's happening? William responded simply, breakfast, flipping the pancakes with an unexpected degree of expertise. You can cook? I gained knowledge while attending college. It's edible, Nothing special. Emily remained in the doorway, suspiciously observing him. What are you doing? William turned off the stove and turned to face her. He said, "Sit down, William, because I want to start over for real this time." Emily hesitated. "Please," pointing to the counter where he had arranged 2 spots. But her curiosity overcame her, and she sat down to watch him serve the steaming pancakes. "Thank you," she whispered, still processing the strange experience of sharing breakfast with her. Hubby, for the first time in 3 years. "How was your sleep?" William, who was seated next to her, inquired. Emily nearly choked. "I apologize. Sleep? How was your night? You're genuinely inquiring about how I slept." "Yes, I am. And I intend to," William said, pausing when he realized how odd the question sounded between them. Emily examined his expression for any indication that this was a game or manipulation, but she kept asking every day, "Why?" "Emily and I want us to be truly married, since we are already married." "You had 3 years, William, to make that decision." Emily ate in silence for a short while, enjoying the flavor of the pancakes. "I know, and I sincerely regret every day I wasted, overtaken by her mental perplexity." "And what if I say it's too late?" At last, she inquired. William put down his fork, down and faced her fully. "Then I'll prove you wrong." Emily felt a shudder run down her spine at the strength of his words. Spine. "How?" "By demonstrating to you on a daily basis the kind of husband I can be." But Emily suddenly got up, the chair scuffing the floor, and said, "You can't just decide what kind of man I can be for you." William stood as well. "But now that you wanted to be a true spouse, you could expect me to comply as if nothing had happened." Calmly said, "I hope you'll give me the chance to earn it. I don't expect you to go along with it." "Emily, I'm not a treasure to be won, William. No, you're—" He took a step toward her and said, "You're my wife," and I was a fool for Emily took a step back, only to find herself pressed up against the counter, because she didn't value that from the start. She said, "I'm confused," in a softer tone. "Fall. 3 years of aloofness, and now this? I'm not sure what to believe." William took another step, this time quite close. "Trust me." He believed that I've finally woken up, and that I've finally seen what's right in front of me. He added softly, could smell the familiar perfume of his cologne, combined with something wholly manly, and could feel the heat emanating from his body. She started, "William," but he cut her off, saying, "What?" "Cancel, Richard." The Emily blinked, his proximity impairing her ability to think straight. "Why would I do that?" "He offered you a job, so turn it down." Emily gently pushed him back, making room between them, saying, "Because I want you to work with me. At Anderson Businesses, you know a lot about emerging markets. We have Latin American projects that require precisely your sort of proficiency." Stunned, Emily gazed at him, You're trying to hire me? I'm extending a personal and professional partnership. This is crazy. It's a chance. Emily gave a headshake and moved away from him. What's going on with you is beyond me. William kept a reasonable distance, but followed. I've now recognized that I've been ignoring the most. I want to make amends with the most amazing woman I've ever met. How am I able to have faith that this isn't a passing phase and that you won't ignore me again tomorrow? William came to a stop and Emily looked over at him. Because he stated, his blue eyes brimming with resolve, I can't ignore you any longer. Observing you eat dinner with another man last night made me understand it is impossible to act as though you don't exist. What happened last night? Specifically, what changed last night? William paused, then decided to be really truthful. Pure and straightforward jealousy. It drove me insane to watch another man stare at you, grasp your hand, and make you smile. It also made me know that on paper you are more than just my wife. I own you. Between them, the words lingered. Something stirred inside Emily. Chest. A mixture of anguish, wrath, and something more sinister. Yours? She mine, William affirmed, moving closer to her once more. I'm not your— No, you're not, he replied. But you are my wife, and I want you to be my wife in every sense of the word. Emily's pulse was pounding because of the passion with which he gazed at her. Observed previously, which was causing odd physical changes to her. And if I don't want to, she argued, and William gave her a butterflies stirred in her gut as she smiled slowly, almost dangerously. Rather than responding, William said, I'll just have to change your mind. How? Began by taking another step, getting near enough for Emily to see the little golden flecks in his blue eyes. Whispered, reaching up to lightly brush her face. Emily ought to have taken a step back and said something. However, his touch was unexpectedly soft, and she had been ignored for 3 years. William, she said, but remained motionless. Tell me to stop, he said. Whispered, gently, stroking her cheek with his thumb. Emily knew she ought to. She was aware that this was playing with fire, but she struggled to speak. You're playing with me, she finally said. I'm not playing, William said gravely. They stood there for a while, staring at one another, saying, I've never been more serious in my life. As the tension between them increased like lightning in the atmosphere, Emily took a step back and gave them some space. I need time to think, she whispered in a trembling voice between them. How long? I'm not sure. Days, weeks. 3 years can't be simply erased, William said. Didn't appear disheartened, but he agreed. All right. But while you're pondering, I'm going to keep showing you the kind, William and Emily. Yes, I'm not giving up. Not this time. What a husband I can be. He then left the kitchen, leaving Emily alone herself, with her heart racing and her head in disarray. Later that Emily discovered white roses and a plain card in her room one day. Origins. William arrived home at lunchtime, something he had never done before, bringing Thai food from a— how could he have remembered the restaurant Emily had described years before? The night, rather than locking Emily, declined William's invitation to watch a movie in the living room while he was in his office. But she saw that he had gone. The volume down and the door open, as though she may decide to change her mind. For 3 days, the trend persisted, and William totally altered his schedule around Emily. They had breakfast together, lunches at dinners at home, when he genuinely discussed her day with her, left Emily feeling perplexed, wary, and intrigued. "He's really trying," Emily said, feeling as though she was getting to know a totally different version of the man she had married. On the third night, she muttered to herself as she observed William reading a book in the living room rather than working on his laptop. The question was whether she would provide him the opportunity he requested. Furthermore, what was more significant was, is she prepared to put her heart at stake once more? It had been a week since William started. Emily was still resisting his attempts to win her back. But she had begun to see small shifts in herself. Anticipating breakfast, speculating about their dinner conversation, and caught herself observing him while he wasn't looking. Emily was reading in the garden that Friday morning when Mrs. Thompson arrived with "A man named Richard Thompson is on the line, Mrs. Anderson, and he says it's about business." Emily felt she hadn't spoken to Richard in a week since that meal that had altered everything, and she was feeling a little nervous. Between her and William. "Hi, Richard. Your voice is so pleasant to hear, Emily. How are you?" "Thank you, I'm doing good. How about you?" "Excellent. Listen, I'm calling because I would greatly appreciate it if you could respond to my question on our job offer. I have meetings in New York next week." Emily paused. In the previous days, William had spoken about more than— she had not responded to my question about whether she would work for Anderson Enterprises. "Richard, I'm still weighing my alternatives." "Oh, sure, I get it. How about we get together today to discuss it?" "Can come get you, perhaps over lunch, to discuss the specifics." Emily turned to face the home, where William was in a crucial meeting and wasn't anticipated to return until the evening. "Okay, what time?" "Noon." "Excellent. See you soon." Unaware that William had arrived home early and overheard a portion of the chat, Emily hung up the phone. His office window. William ascended the stairs briskly, a well-known rage building in his chest. Thompson once more. That dude was turning into a recurring issue. William had been making every effort to win Emily back. He had altered his entire schedule, cancelled crucial meetings simply to be at home, made every effort to demonstrate to her his potential as a spouse. And now, at 11:30, William noticed that Richard had returned to make matters more complicated. Through the window while Emily was getting dressed, wearing a yellow dress that accentuated her skin tone and letting her hair fall in soft waves. He was even more irritated by her beauty. When Richard's automobile pulled up, William made an impetuous choice. Richard picked up his Porsche keys and trailed behind them, taking Emily to an upscale eatery in the center of Beverly Hills. Emily liked the setting, which was sophisticated, but not as personal as the first time. So, when they gave the order, Richard responded. "Tell me what's going on," Emily groaned. "You sounded different on the phone. William's situation at home is complex. He is evolving." Richard leaned closer, curious. "What do you mean?" "He's decided he wants to be a real person," he said. "Spouse now? He's trying his hardest to impress me, which isn't good." Emily nibbled at her dinner, distracted. "I'm not sure. 3 years of apathy don't go away overnight, but are you considering giving?" Emily said. "I'm confused. Part of me wants to believe him a chance." Richard reached across the room and said, "He's really changed. But the part that was ignored for 3 years is afraid it's just a phase." Table and lightly placed his palm over hers. "Emily, can I tell you the truth? Of course, naturally, you need someone who values you from the very beginning, not just a little attention when it suits him." "Thank you. That means a lot to me." Emily glanced down at their hands, moved by Richard's genuineness. "My offer is still valid because of this. Work with me and be self-reliant. You don't have to depend on his moods to determine your future." Emily's blood raced cold when she saw William, a familiar face, enter the cafe. "What a coincidence finding you two here," he said, walking directly over to their table with a mask of controlled indifference on his face. Richard released Emily's hand and rose courteously as William spoke in a dangerously composed tone. "William? What are unexpected?" "I'm sure," William said, keeping his gaze on Richard's hand while remaining near Emily's. Emily said to William, attempting to maintain a steady voice, "Why are you here, consuming lunch?" "Simply, apparently, just like you." It was clear that there was tension around the table. Other patrons had begun to look in their direction. Why don't Richard, obviously attempting to diffuse the tension, said, "You join us?" "How kind," asked William, bringing out a chair and taking a seat without an actual invitation. Emily gazed at him in awe of his audacity. "Actually," she informed him, "we were having a private conversation." "About business, I assume," William remarked, his eyes never away from her face. "Yes," Richard affirmed. "I'm trying to convince Emily to accept my job offer." William responded, "Interesting," but it was obvious from his tone that he didn't find it so. "And what sort of work is it?" "That?" Emily became enraged. "The kind that permits me to apply my training and abilities, something he was never interested in learning." William's eyes were piercing as he turned to face her. "I did make an offer. You a job with Anderson Enterprises." Emily shot back as a favor. Richard offered, since he recognizes my worth as a professional. William remarked, I'm sure he sees plenty of things in you. His voice full of implication. Richard clumsily cleared his throat. Perhaps I ought to grant you two some solitude. No, Emily blurted out. You don't need to travel. William jerked to his feet. He does, in fact. Please pardon me, Richard inquired. You must give up pursuing my wife. Emily jumped up as well, her face red with rage. Are you chasing? He's giving me a chance to pursue a career. We are all aware that he is providing more than that. Richard got up, obviously offended as well. I believe you're misinterpreting, William. Am I? With a menacing stance, William moved to face Richard. Do you really think I'm unaware of how you gaze at her? How can you justify touching her? Emily gasped in horror at William. William's voice rose. It's true. I'm curious about you, Emily. You're also taking pleasure in the attention. Emily felt as though someone had hit her. How dare you? I dare, since I am your spouse. On paper? Emily yelled, just on paper. The entire. Now the restaurant was looking at them. Richard put a few bucks on the table. He said, I think I'd better go. When you make up your mind about the offer, Emily, give me a call. He hurried out, leaving William and Emily staring at one another in the uneasy quiet. Emily responded, Congratulations, her voice trembling with anger. You just made me look foolish in public by allowing him to touch you in that way. You embarrassed yourself. Emily moved in closer. Her eyes were burning. Who do you consider yourself to be? For 3 years, you disregarded me. 3 years? You now behave as though you have some sort of authority over me. You are subject to my rights. No, you don't, Emily yelled, disregarding the spectators. The ones you began treating me like I didn't exist, you gave up those rights. Didn't exist. William took hold of her arm, firmly, but not roughly. Come on, give up of me, Emily. Everyone is looking. It doesn't matter to me. Allow them to gaze. However, William was already leading her out of the eatery while keeping his grip firmly on her back. Out of the way, in the parking lot, Emily pulled her arm free with inquisitive eyes. She screamed, How dare you? You have the audacity to follow me and make me feel like that. I was unable to resist, couldn't do anything. Observing you with him, observing when a man touches you, he looks at you like, what? As if he desires you. William erupted. Stunned by the force of his voice, Emily stopped yelling. She questioned, So what if he wants me? Voice is still challenging, but it's lower now. William moved in closer, something raw burning in his blue eyes. And primordial. What does that mean? He said it again. You are my wife, Emily. Then behave as though I'm attempting to do that. By pursuing me, making fun of me, and behaving as if you own me. Clearly agitated, William raked his hands over his hair. I have no idea how to do this. I have no idea how to be a true husband. I was never taught. His voice's unvarnished honesty took him by surprise. The tenderness in his tone shocked Emily as well. Then learn, she remarked in a tone that more at ease now. However, not in this manner. Emily noticed something in her when William gazed at her. His gaze, which briefly caused her to stop breathing. Emily, he murmured in a hoarse voice. You don't know what you're doing to me. By what do you mean? William moved in closer yet, so near that she could sense his body's warmth. I mean, you're completely driving me insane. The heart of Emily started racing. Something about the way he gazed at her stood out. An intensity that evoked emotions she hadn't experienced in a long time. He said, William, you have power over me, in a scarcely audible voice. A murmur. Emily gave him a serious look and said, a power I don't understand. A power I can't control. She didn't see the aloof, domineering CEO for the first time. She observed a man who was disoriented, perplexed, and deeply in affection. Power, she said again, to make me lose control, to make me feel envious, to give me desires I wasn't even aware I had. Emily experienced an odd sense of fulfillment. Following 3 years of it was intoxicating to realize she had that type of influence on him, even though he felt invisible. And what do you want? Her voice was softer now, as she requested. William gave her a long look before responding. Emily, you. I desire you. For a brief time, Emily thought the world had stopped as they exchanged pleasantries in the parking lot. 3 years of marriage, and he had never spoken those words with such sincerity and emotion before. She started William, but he shook his head, saying, Don't say anything now, just think. Regarding what I said, they drove different cars home, and the conflict between them, Emily stayed in her room for the remainder of the afternoon, attempting to make sense of everything that happened. It wasn't just physical. His words, I want you, replayed in her head. She had heard a deeper, more desperate kind of longing in his voice. When Emily went downstairs for breakfast the following morning, she expected to see William, but he had already left. Mrs. Thompson informed her that he had left early for an all-day business meeting. Emily experienced an unanticipated surge of disappointment. She had grown accustomed to eating breakfast with him as he paid close attention. At approximately 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Richard answered her phone. I hope it's okay with you, Emily. But I wanted to, Richard. You don't have to apologize for yesterday's events. I should be the one to do so. I apologize for William's actions. To be really honest, I know that he is in love with you. Emily's heart skipped a beat as she saw the placards. Do you think so? I'm positive. How do you feel about it, I wonder? Emily was silent for a while, perplexed. 3 years of separation, Richard, and now I'm not sure. He's distinct. Quite distinct. Emily, could I make a suggestion? Sure, how about we eat dinner together this evening? Just as Emily hesitated, I don't know, maybe it will help all of us clear the air. William can come too if he wants. If you decide that's a good plan, I'll be at Giovanni's at 8. Just shoot me a note. Emily was getting ready at 7 when she heard William's Porsche arrive in the driveway. Her heart skipped a beat. She had made the decision to go to dinner with Richard, but she wasn't sure if it was the correct one. William was in the living room, still dressed in a sophisticated black dress, downstairs, determined to maintain her freedom. When he spotted her, he stopped dead in his tracks and murmured, "You look beautiful, without a tie." "Thank you." William remained motionless for a moment as Emily took a big breath and said, "I'm going to have dinner with Richard." He nodded slowly for a bit before saying, "I see. You understand? You're testing me. You want to see if I lose control again?" William asked a la Diaz, his gaze fixed on hers. Emily was taken by surprise by how insightful he was. "And will you?" William walked up to her, stopping just a breath away. "Yes," he said. "And I will detest every second of it. I'll picture him making you laugh, stroking your hand, and observing you the only I ought to." A chill went through Emily's body. "However, William, I'm not going to follow you. I'm not going to make a disturbance because I trust you." "You trust me? You're an Emily. You have always been an honorable woman. If you really want to leave with me, then spend one evening with someone else." The maturity of his remark affected Emily, who looked at him and said, "Man won't change that. And what happens if I choose to depart with him?" For a moment, William closed his eyes, as if the question were physically painful. "After that, I'll have to recognize that I lost my opportunity." His voice had a tenderness that nearly caused Emily to call off the meal immediately. "Go, William," he murmured, taking a step back. However, Emily, indeed. Recall what I said yesterday. Keep in mind that I desire you. Not quite out of convenience, rather than out of obligation, since you are exceptional, and I was a fool for not seeing it sooner. Emily got to Giovanni has a conflicted heart. Richard was there already, looking as classy as ever. "You came, Emily," he remarked, giving her hand a courteous kiss. "I did. But let's chat, Richard. Naturally, let's take a seat." They sat down, and Emily got right to the point. "Regarding William, you were correct. He's in love." "Alongside me," Richard grinned. "How about you? What are your thoughts about that?" "Bewildered and afraid. However, I believe that I am also in love with him." Richard gave a nod, as though he had anticipated it. "Respond." So why are you with me here? Emily let out a sigh. Because I'm not sure if I can believe these emotions. 3 years is after being neglected for a long time, you are abruptly told that you are loved. But Emily, people change. Occasionally, it takes nearly losing someone to understand their significance in our lives. Are you urging me to remain with my spouse? Richard chuckled. I'm being practical. You and that man are utterly enamored with each other. I merely act as a spark in this narrative. A spark? It was me who helped William understand his feelings. Absent the competition, he might not have realized what was in front of him. Emily gave Richard a fresh makeover. Reverence. You're a beloved woman and a very wise man. The query is, how are you going to use that? Emily failed to spot someone walking into the restaurant while they were conversing. William had pondered what might be going on and concluded he couldn't stay at home. He went to the bar and placed an order for whiskey and observed from afar. He was shocked to see that Richard was not attempting to woo his wife, but rather a serious two pals having a talk. Excuse me, a voice at the bar next to him remarked. Richard was there when William turned. Thompson. Would you mind if I joined you, William? William indicated the stool next to him. Emily in the bathroom. I felt that this was an excellent opportunity for us to speak. Regarding the fact that you're a very fortunate man. William gave him a perplexed look. Your wife is an amazing woman who is strong, devoted, intelligent, and totally enamored with you. How do you know? She talked about you, your changes, her confusion, and her love throughout the entire evening, and simultaneously terrified. Something changed in William's chest. That wasn't in those precise words, but I heard it that way. Could I offer you some guidance, William? Proceed. Give yourself your all without fear. She needs to know that you won't abandon her once more. William gave a nod, absorbing it. What about your offer of employment? Richard grinned. Retracted. She belongs with you and at Anderson Enterprises. Emily discovered the two men conversing as she returned from the bathroom, coolly at the bar. She questioned, perplexed. What's going on here? William got up and approached her. Richard and I came to a realization. What sort of comprehension? I'm a fortunate fool, William remarked, his gaze fixed on hers. Emily glanced between the two men and said, and I'm not going to waste a second chance. I'll let you two do it, Richard. Richard grabbed his coat and said, Talk. It was a joy to meet you, Emily. William looked after her well. When Richard was gone, Emily looked at William. Why are you here? Imagining you with another man kept me from staying at home. However, you mentioned that I trusted you, and I do. However, that does not imply that it was simple. Emily took a step in his direction. Let's go, William. He whispered softly. Home. This time, we have to have a real conversation. After Emily gave a nod, they both walked out of the eatery. Within, there was a lot of anxiety in the car, but it was different. It wasn't frustration or rage. It was waiting. As he drove, William said, "Emma, I'll tell you everything when we get home. All of my emotions, all I hope for us, everything I desire." Emily's heart pounded. What if I said, "I want to tell you everything, too"? William gave her a fleeting glance before turning back to the road. Then we're in for a very long night. Emily and Williams stood by the front door of the mansion, staring at one another. Tension was in the air, an expectation that was going to put an end to 3 years of stillness. William murmured softly, "Emily, there's something I need you to know before we continue." "What is it?" "I adore you." Between them tangled the words. Emily tears pricked her eyes. "William, no. Let me be done." Coming closer, he said, to her, in a way I never imagined possible, "I love you. You are a powerful woman, and I fell in love with even when I felt cold, you offered me grace." A tear trickled down Emily's cheek with the wisdom I couldn't see. 3 years, she muttered. I waited for those words for 3 years, and for taking so long to say them, I'm an idiot. William stretched out and gave her face a gentle pat. "Could you love me too, Emily? I know I don't deserve it." Emily took a peek for the first time, she saw genuine vulnerability in his eyes as she cried. She said, "I already love you. Even when you disregarded me. I believe I always did. I wanted to quit up even though it hurt so badly." William shut his eyes, as though her words were a physical comfort to him. "Emily." This time, she moved forward and touched his face with her hands. "Kiss me," she muttered. William didn't have to say anything more. Leaning in, he gave her a gentle kiss at first, then a deeper one as Emily answered. It was their first genuine kiss. In 3. Despite being married for years, they had never shared a kiss that was filled with passion, desire, and hope for the future. When they tugged, both were breathing heavily, separated. William murmured to Emily, "I genuinely want to be your husband, in every manner." Emily's heart began to rush. William said, "I want that too." Her hand and guided her upstairs to the master suite, a bedroom she had never been in before. The space was tasteful, friendly, but manly. "Emily," William remarked, observing Emily's reluctance as she glanced about, feeling suddenly uneasy. "If you're not ready." "It's not that," she blurted out. "William is the only one. You need to know something." "What is it?" Emily asked, taking a long breath and attempting to muster her bravery. "I have never." William scowled in confusion. "But we never did." "What are you trying to communicate, Emily?" "I'm a virgin." The words came out of her mouth quickly. William went utterly still, as though he had been hit by lightning. What did you do say? I am a virgin. Emily said it again, but softer. William gave her a clear look. Stunned. We're married, Emily. She reminded him on paper. You never did. You hardly ever spoke to me at all. William tried to absorb it by running a hand through his hair. God, Emily. You're 25. I'm aware of my age, but how? Why? Emily took a seat on the side of the bed, feeling unexpectedly vulnerable. Prior to and following our marriage, I was preoccupied with my studies and career. All right, you made your lack of interest in me rather obvious. William took her hands in his and knelt before her. Emily. I'm so sorry. I'm very sorry, God. I had no idea. I never would have thought of that. How could you? You never inquired about my life prior to our marriage. William closed his eyes because he was so overcome by guilt. Do you despise me? No, Emily muttered. I need you, but I don't despise you. To comprehend, it will be my first time with anyone tonight if it occurs. William's expression was changing as he gazed at her. Are you sure, Emily? I'm able to wait? We are able to wait. Emily touched his face. I've been waiting 3 years to be your real wife. There is no need for me to wait any longer. With boundless compassion, William gave her another kiss. With a respect Emily had never experienced before. William turned with love, care, and patience. Turned evening into the most exquisite and exclusive encounter Emily could have ever dreamed of. When Emily awoke, she smelled coffee and a delicious treat close by. She opened her eyes slowly to discover that she was in William's bedroom, which was now theirs. As the sun peeked through the drapes in the morning, a gentle voice whispered, Good morning, my wife. Emily turned to see William enter the room carrying a tray full of food, which included coffee, orange juice, fruit, and freshly made croissants. William, she began sitting up in bed. You didn't have anything, including a tiny rose in a vase. Yes, I did, he said, setting down the tray and taking a seat next to her. Wished to do something unique for the most significant woman in my life. Emily's heart warmed. He touched her tenderly and asked, How are you feeling? I couldn't believe this was the same man who had ignored her for 3 years. Face. Complete, Emily acknowledged. William grinned and gave her a kiss, gently. Emily said, I don't regret anything. I do, in fact, regret. After a lengthy wait, they ate breakfast in bed, laughing and chatting like they had never done before. It seemed like 2. However, with the strong bond of those who had always been close, strangers were learning to know one another. After then, Emily noticed that William had completely changed. He stopped appointments to spend time with her, took her to. She had never seen Los Angeles before, and more significantly, he discussed with her everything. Emily eventually posed the question that had been bothering them one evening when they were sitting on the veranda watching the sunset. in her mind. Why were you so frigid before, William? People say you were cold even before we were married. After a brief period of silence, William sighed and finally replied, My family. I was brought up by the Andersons. My father, was all about money, success, and business. My mother, Emily turned to face him. Appearances were more important to her than her own kids. Love and genuine connections were never taught to me. Everything was a transaction and a tactic. When I handled the arranged marriage as though it were any other transaction. William then grasped her hand and interlaced their fingers. I've discovered that love isn't a weakness, rather, it's the strongest thing there is. Who taught me this? I know I was entirely mistaken. You did, he continued, staring her in the eyes and observing your fortitude, your self-respect, and your capacity to. Tears filled Emily's eyes. Love, even when it wasn't reciprocated. William, I understand that being apart for 3 years doesn't simply go away. I understand that you're still worried that I'll return to how I was. It was true. Emily still frightened it in spite of everything that had changed. Might not last. I'm afraid that once the novelty wears off, you'll start ignoring me, she said. Once more, William turned to face her and held her face tenderly in his hands. I swear to you on my life and our love, Emily Anderson. Look at me, she did. That you have profoundly altered my identity and that I will never treat you in the same way again. William said, You're not just a win for me, so how can I be certain? You are my atonement, my second opportunity to become the man I ought to have been from the start. William then demonstrated what he had spoken by being present, watchful, protective, but not possessive. He gave Emily his full support when she chose to pursue an independent consultancy project. Are you sure? Emily inquired. I'll be working with your rivals occasionally. I'm sure, William replied. I want you to be content and pleased. Their physical bond grew stronger as well. Success is my success. William was attentive, loving, and constantly ensuring that Emily felt valued and cherished with each kiss, touch, and private moment. Moment was proof of their love for one another. One evening, after yet another evening of William turned to face Emily and replied, I trust you. The words she had been holding back. Really? William kissed me. Really, with my life, my heart, and our future. Emily knew he meant it, and I swear never to betray that confidence. The cold, aloof guy she had married 3 years prior had entirely vanished, replaced by an honest lover. And passion. Emily felt genuinely wedded for the first time in 3 years. Genuinely whole, genuinely loved. It had been 2 months since Emily and William had Emily had started their marriage, and they were happier than they had ever imagined. William helped her with every assignment while she worked as a consultant, and their love deepened daily. Then on a Tuesday, everything changed in the morning. Emily was sorting through some documents in William's office when she came upon a folder that included. She opened it out of curiosity to see if it included any vital documents that needed to be filed. She sank into the chair when she noticed that they were contracts. Agreements for a merger between Anderson and Emily's parent business, Peterson Accounting Enterprises. The dates were from approximately 3 years ago, when they were getting married. Emily's hands were shaking. It was apparent from reading every article that their marriage would ensure the merger. Merging the two businesses, the Peterson family would get a sizable cash payout, retain 20% of the new company, and operations will be completely taken over by William. "This can't be," Emily muttered as a wave of nausea rose in her stomach. But as she went on, she discovered something worse. Provisions pertaining to children, public appearances, and the requirement that the marriage endure for a minimum of 5 years in order to guarantee the stability of the merging. Emily was meaning a clause in a business contract. William smiled as he entered the room and spotted her. "Emily, you will be amazed at how fruitful the meeting was. How are you, Emily?" Emily got up. "Increase gradually, keeping the contracts." "Can you tell me more about this?" Her tone was oddly serene as she inquired, and William glanced at the documents, and Emily noticed that his face had lost its color. "Emily, allow me to explain." "What? That I'm only a part of a corporate merger? That our marriage was a commercial contract?" "That's not the case. It's right here in black and white. Clause 5, William and Emily's marriage." "It's not." Emily laughed bitterly. "Anderson and Emily Peterson will see to it that Anderson Enterprises fully acquires Peterson Accounting." Emily retreated when William reached out to her. "Emily, tell me about the situation." "What situation?" "I was aware of the merger from the start, but what exactly was it? Did you think I was too dim to figure it out? Did you think you could take advantage of me indefinitely without my ever knowing the truth?" "Emily, you're misinterpreting the fact that Emily tossed the contracts onto the table. Tell me, William, which component of our marriage enabled you to assume my William went through his family's business, or the section that contains special provisions on having children? Hair. Obviously, in a terrible situation. Yes, Emily, a commercial arrangement existed, but that was before you fell in love, before I truly got to know you. Before I fell in love with you, Emily, William. You knew this yesterday, when you told me you loved me. You knew it last week, when we made love. You were aware of it. I wasn't, since we pretended to be in a relationship for months. I'm acting, yet my emotions are genuine. How can I trust that?" Emily began to pace. "Anything you say when our entire marriage was based on a lie?" My parents were aware of her pain and rage too, which is why they pushed for the marriage so strongly. It wasn't simply William didn't respond, so she knew it was about selling the family business and paying off debts. Emily muttered, "My God, I was sold twice. Once to save the debts. Then one more to make sure you got everything, Emily. Please, no." Emily yelled, "Don't touch me, don't tell me. It was all phony, but what we feel is genuine. You love me." Emily turned. Tears were running down her cheeks as she turned to face him. "How can I tell what's real?" William took a step closer her, asking, "Can I trust anything when I just found out I'm just a piece in some business deal? Because you are aware of my emotions and the person I have become with you. Do I? Or are you merely a skilled actor?" "Emily, you know that's not true." "Do I?" I punched William like a punch for 2 hours. I used to believe that my spouse loved me for who I was. But now I know that he loves me because I brought him wealth. The business Emily challenged. If I mean more, then give it up. It means nothing compared to you. Then the company, reverse the merger, and return my family's business, William. That's what I thought," she continued in a broken voice. I hesitated, and that hesitation was all Emily needed to see. When it comes to deciding between me and the money, you chose the money, just like 3 years before. Emily, it's not that easy. It's really that easy, Emily exclaimed. You either love me for what I am or for who I am. Emily hurried to the bedroom and began packing, saying, "It can't be both financially." William trailed behind. "What? Don't do this, Emily. Are you leaving?" "I'm heading to a hotel. We are able to fix this. Make it right." Emily looked across at him. How can we address the reality that our entire was marriage founded on deception? Because it's not a falsehood, what we have now. Emily looked at him and stopped folding clothes. How can I be certain? How can I tell whether you've actually changed or whether you've simply become more adept at acting? William said nothing. No response. Emily, that's what I believed, whispered as she closed her bag. Please don't go, Emily. Remain and let's converse. We'll manage to get through this. Emily gave him one final sad glance. William, I need time to take it all in. I have to determine what is performance and what is real. What if I tell you that I won't let you leave? With dignity, Emily lifted her chin. You will therefore demonstrate that you have not altered at all, that you still believe you have influence over me? William took a step back, recognizing that making her stay would only make her concerns worse. How much time? I'm not sure. Perhaps forever. Emily grabbed her bag and made her way to the door. William cried out, "Emily," in a breaking. Emily paused at, "I love you. That's real, even if nothing else is." The door, without looking back. I hope it is, William. Because if it's not, then we've really lost everything. Emily had spent 7 days of suffering, bewilderment, and sorrow while lodging at a small hotel in downtown Los Angeles. She failed to return William's calls or texts and instructed the hotel reception to withhold any details about her. She needed time to take it all in. The marriage, which was now genuine, was based on an enormous lie. After that, how could she trust anything? In the meantime, William was experiencing his own nightmare. Without Emily, the mansion seemed empty. He hardly slept, was unable to eat and concentrate at work at all. But action had to be taken. Emily had issued an invitation. He needed to show that he truly loved her more than the company. Monday, William entered Anderson Enterprises' boardroom in the morning, where his father, Robert Anderson, was waiting, with the business's attorneys. "You requested this urgent meeting, William. What is it about?" A folder that William put on the table. "My goal is to reverse the merger with Peterson Accounting." The quiet in the room was overwhelming. Incredulous, Robert questioned, "What did you say?" "I'd like to return the business to the Peterson family. That merger is worth $15 million. You're crazy." Robert got to his feet, visibly irate, and said, "I know exactly what it's worth, Dad. William, this isn't a whim. It's the right thing to do." "The right thing? You can't just abruptly terminate a 3-year contract." William also rose up, staring at his father. "Damaged your marriage over this?" "I didn't destroy my marriage. William, you did it when you included my wife in a business transaction without disclosing all the details. I was aware that the marriage would have business benefits. But I was unaware that Emily was literally part of the contract. I was unaware that there were provisions pertaining to children and the duration of our marriage." A lawyer cleared his throat, saying, "Mr. In theory, Anderson, reversing the merger is feasible, but the settlements and legal costs would be enormous." "I don't give a damn." William cut him off, saying, "Make it happen." Robert took his son's arm. "Reflect on your actions, William. 15 million, the company's standing. Had you taught me that money was the most important thing all my life," William said, pulling away. "That company arrives prior to everything. However, you were mistaken. What are you saying is incorrect. Emily has a net worth of about 15 million. She's more valuable compared to the entire business. Nothing I own or will ever own is worth as much as she is." Robert gave a headshake. "You're acting emotive and illogical. You never taught me to be human, but I'm doing it now." William looked to the attorneys. "Please get all the required paperwork ready. David is the originator of Peterson Accounting, as well as Sarah Peterson. Let them keep any money they were given as part of the transaction. Think of it as payment for the 3 years. William," Robert attempted to argue, "the choice is made." "Dad, I'm going to do it the proper way this time, in order to win my wife back." William resolved to leave the room. Before pursuing Emily, there is one more stop to make. In the kitchen, David and Sarah Peterson were enjoying coffee when the doorbell rang. Sarah was shocked to see William standing there, as she approached to respond. "What a surprise, William. Please enter." David was in the living room when William entered. "Sarah and David, I need to talk to you about something. Significant. Naturally. Take a seat. Do you want coffee?" "Thank you, but no." William inhaled deeply. "I would like to return your business." Sarah and David looked at each other bewildered. "What do you mean to return it?" "I would like to revoke the merger and return Peterson Accounting." "Everything to you?" "However, why?" Sarah inquired. "Since I discovered that Emily discovered regarding the conditions of the agreement and how the marriage was incorporated into the business plan." David sighed deeply. "We feared the day would arrive. You need to have informed her right away." Sarah responded, "We know," her eyes filling with tears. "However, we were in a grave situation. The debt and the potential for David to be imprisoned." "I recognize the situation," William remarked. "However, Emily feels that we have all betrayed her." "She is correct." "She's where?" David inquired. "In a lodging establishment. I haven't heard from her in a week." Sarah broke down in tears. "Where our avarice caused us to lose our daughter." William confidently stated, "They didn't lose. However, we must put this right. I'm returning everything because of this. Emily must understand that she is more important than any commercial agreement." David asked William, "Are you sure? This must mean millions for your company." "Without Emily, it's all meaningless, I'm positive." William got to his feet. "The attorneys will get in touch with you regarding the specifics of the case. I want everything to be completed by the end of the week." Following William's departure, David and Sarah sat quietly, attempting to comprehend what had transpired. "He truly loves." "Yes. The question is, will it be enough?" Sarah said. Emily was present at she was trying to read a book in her hotel room when she felt sick. So she hurried to the bathroom and puked fiercely. And after it was over, she sat on the bathroom floor, unable to understand what had happened. Days of feeling weird, exhausted, queasy, and emotional were followed by a horrifying realization. "It can't be," she thought. Emily looked at her phone's calendar and said, "Very late." Her hands were shaking. After getting dressed, she left the hotel and purchased 3 different pregnancy tests at the closest pharmacy. Back in she waited through the longest minutes of her life in the room, taking all 3. Positive. Positive. Good. Emily started crying while sitting on the bed and gazing at the tests. She wasn't sure if it was out of happiness, fear, or total misery. She was carrying William's child, the guy she loved but no longer completely trusted, the man who had. How could she raise a child in the midst of all this? They misled her about the basis of their marriage. Bewilderment? How could she decide on her future when she wasn't even certain whether her marriage was genuine or Just Emily grabbed her phone and typed William's number. But she couldn't bring herself to push the call button. Was it part of a deal? Instead, she sent a straightforward message. What would she even say? How would she explain? He responded, "I need to talk to you, it's important." Seconds. Where? Emily glanced about our room at home and the impersonal hotel room where she had been hiding for a week. She required a comfortable foundation for this discussion for an hour because after it, when Emily got to the Anderson, everything was very different because she was pregnant. Mansion with her pulse pounding, her hands trembling as she used the key she had never given back to open the door. Was still, but she sensed William's presence within. She ascended the stairs cautiously, each step resonating in the deserted corridor. She went inside the bedroom they had been sharing for the past few months, the space where they had found love and were genuinely married. Emily perched on the side of the bed while the three pregnant. How would she tell him about the tests concealed in her purse? How would she explain that she was the sound of the Porsche, carrying the child of a guy she no longer trusted? William was home, and she stood up when he pulled into the driveway. A few minutes later, she heard his footsteps on the stairs. He looked worn out when the door opened, but his eyes glowed when he saw her. "Emily," he said. Emily tried to say, "You came back." But she was unable to do so, and instead started crying. She was suddenly struck with the feelings of the previous week, including betrayal, anguish, anxiety, and now pregnancy. "Emily, what is it?" Emily sobbed as William hurried up to her and knelt by the bed. "Please tell me what's going on." Her body trembling uncontrollably, William hesitated before putting his arms around her and cradling her against his. He stroked her hair and said, "I'm here. We'll get through this." "It's okay, William." Emily managed between sobs. "Tell me what I can do. Anything." "It's not okay. Nothing is okay." "Emily, I have to tell you something that will alter everything," she said, pulling away from him and wiping away her tears. Emily took a long breath and tried to relax. "First, I need you to tell William what was causing the knot in his gut. Tell me anything, anything at all. What did you do regarding the merger? Regarding my parents' debt company?" William gave her a direct look and said, "I called it off. Peterson Accounting returns to your parents next week. They can keep the money they got." "You actually did that?" "I did." Emily blinked, shocked. "I returned all 15 million, Emily." "Why?" William grasped her hands in his. Emily started crying once more, saying, "Because you're worth more than any amount of money. Because I want you to know my love for you has nothing to do with business." However, these were tears of relief this time. "William, Emily, I know I've produced horrible errors. I realize I ought to have told you everything about the contract right away. But my emotions for you've transformed my life. You're real. Emily glanced at him and saw, "I believe you," she said. "Really?" There was nothing but honesty in his eyes. "Really?" William held his breath and said, "And now I need to tell you something that will change our lives forever." Emily. "I'm pregnant," she said, taking out 3 pregnancy tests from her purse and setting them on the bed between them. William remained motionless, gazing at the tests before turning to face Emily and then back to the tests. "Pregnant," he said again, as if he was having trouble understanding the term. William abruptly pulled her, saying, "Yes, I found out today," into his arms and gave her an unexpectedly passionate kiss. He was crying when they separated. "Emily," he said, his voice trembling with passion, "I already love you, and I love you even more. This baby as well." Emily's heart warmed up. "You do?" Even after, with a palm on her still flat, William whispered, "Everything. All the confusion. Especially because of it." Emily collapsed into his arms, saying, "This is our new beginning. This baby will be born from real love, not a contract." William whispered into her hair, "It's just the 3 of us now," finally allowing herself to feel joy. "A true family. A true family," Emily said again, grinning despite her tears. After 6 months, Emily was radiant in her white wedding gown. The silky fabric perfectly cradled her 6-month baby belly. This time, the dress, the flowers, and the music were all carefully chosen by her. This time, she was getting married out of love. The wedding took place in the Anderson estate's garden, which was adorned with white flowers and gentle lighting. Only sincere friends and close family were present. William. He was waiting at the altar, looking dapper in his tux, and he was crying as he saw her approach him. William and Emily renew their vows today, not out of obligation or a contract, but out of genuine love, the officiant said. "Emily," William murmured, holding her hands, "I married you for convenience 3 years ago. I'm marrying you today because life without you is unthinkable. I've learned what love is from you. I learned how to be human from you." Emily grinned while crying, flowing down her own cheeks. "William, you've taught me that people can change, that genuine love is worth waiting for. I swear to love you and our child forever, and that second chances do exist." The guests applauded as they shared a kiss. But Emily could only hear her heartbeat in time with William's. A year later, Emily peered out the window of their new downtown Los Angeles modest office. Anderson and Peterson International Consulting, the business they founded, was listed on the door. Together with their personal savings, they had a modest beginning, but within a year, they had 15 workers and contracts across 3 nations, with William managing business strategy and Emily concentrating on new markets. The ideal group. "How is our little CEO doing?" William inquired as he entered the office with their 3-month-old in tow. "Son?" Emily grinned and removed the infant from his grasp. David William Anderson had his mother's lovely grin and his father's blue eyes. "He's perfect," Emily remarked, planting a kiss on the infant's forehead. William kissed Emily tenderly and whispered, "Like his mom." Emily's parents had a generous son when the merger was reversed. Enough to start over comfortably. Pearson Accounting was going strong once more, now managed by David with fresh vitality. As he occasionally did, William inquired, "Do you ever regret it? Remaining at my side despite anything?" Emily glanced at their son, her husband, and the business they had founded together. "Never," she firmly stated. "You've demonstrated that genuine love is more valuable than any sum of money." Holding the three of them close, William gave her a hug. How did you feel about Emily and William's tale? Post your opinions in the comments section. Give this story a score between 0 and 10. What grade would you assign it? Remember to enable notifications and subscribe to the channel so you can hear all of our stories and view other poignant tales directly on the last screen.